are putting brains together to ensure that today's topic is adequately covered and your questions are adequately answered. So you can even start putting in your questions in the Q&A or in the chat box. And kindly remember, this is a CPD awarded training, only if you stay to the end, and therefore kindly forward your name and your KVB number. Thank you so much. Daktari, over to you, please.
Thank you, Mary, for that. Mine is to thank you all for making time for this webinar. Not taking so much of your time, I will take this opportunity to welcome the other panelists, Dr. Shah and Mary Kaiwan of KLBA, and the KVB representative, Dr. Gutu. Kindly introduce yourselves, then we carry on with the business of the day. Thank you. Dr. Shah, please.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Yeah, my name is Dr. Shah, as Dr. Roslyn has indicated. I am a private practitioner in Washingishu Eldoret here, and I am sure glad to be part of this very, very important discussion on economic importance of mastitis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Mary Kaiwan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Wanja. I work for Kenya Livestock Breeders Association, and I'm happy to be in the webinar today.
Thank you, Mary. Dr. Gutu, kindly say jambo to the participants and the panelists. KVB. Looks like we are not getting them. At this point in time, I would request that we go into the business of the day. We'll endeavor to ensure that we get the Kenya Veterinary Board saying something towards the end of the webinar. This webinar is a concerted effort with people to get experience and the wealth of knowledge from across the dairy value chain. We are lucky that we are going to also even hear from a farmer to get to understand to appreciate the challenges they may have gone through in dealing with mastitis. We are going to get also somebody from Medlink and who are selling now the equipment for managing mastitis and ensuring that there is hygiene at the level of the farmer, and also an officer from the veterinary investigatory laboratory will also chip in. But for now, I wish to welcome Regina Koech. Take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Daktari, for that honor. And I'm grateful because we are having a number of panelists so that we can also make our own solution towards this bacterial disease, which is mastitis. Okay, I'm going to take all of us through economical importance of mastitis in dairy farming enterprise. And the reason why actually we are taking this very important topic is however much we are trying to improve our daily productivity and towards achievement of food security, which is one of the government, national government agenda. We, along our way of achieving what we really want to achieve, is constraints along the journey. And today we would like us to brainstorm on how possible or ways we can actually reduce the cost of production, as well as the constraints that actually hinder our achievement at the end of our discussion. Maybe to go through introduction, economically effective ads are thus a prerequisite or important to maintain a sound dairy industry, and economic margins of dairy herds are narrow. Optimizing of the economic results becomes important, and the need for the cost minimization at every level of production is accentuated. A means of reducing the cost of production is to decrease the incidence of production disorders, and these are reduced production, veterinary costs, increase AVA replacement rate, and consequently give rise to economical less efficient herds. Maybe we also need to understand what is mastitis and how is relevant to our daily dairy production. Understanding mastitis is an inflammatory reaction of the mammary gland, and it is induced when pathogenic microorganism, that is pathogens or bacterial organism that enters through the udder, through the teat canal, overcomes the cow's defense mechanism, and it begins to multiply in the udder and produce toxins, which are harmful to our mammary, the cow's mammary gland. And the mammary tissues is then damaged and causes the vascular permeability. It allows the permeability of pathogens, more concentration into the vascular or mammary gland. And the result of this concentration or permeability of this pathogen into the mammary gland will actually alter the composition of milk, and leakage of blood constituent like serum, proteins, enzyme, and salt into the milk, decreased synthesis of caseins and also lactose, and also decrease the fat quality. The extent of these changes is determined by the severity of the infection. And mastitis is actually a multifactorial disease. It means it can happen in so many, the predisposing factors are many. It can be environmental or genetic. And the incidence depends on the exposure to the pathogen. Actually, effectiveness of the other defense mechanism and environmental risk factors. Maybe we would like to knowledge ourselves or inform ourselves what is quality milk. And I think the dairy board will be able to inform or maybe give us more picture of how the content or how the quality milk looks like. You see, the components of milk are fats, lactose, and protein. And when we talk of hygienic, we talk of the somatic cell score in that milk. So the more somatic cell score, the more susceptible of the animal or the presence of the pathogens in that mammary gland or in the milk. And that is very important to also ensure there's hygiene in our milking, in our sheds, to make sure that we are training the quality milk for us to get the best out of our daily production. There's also sustainability in terms of environment and welfare, because actually when the mastitis invest in the animal, you find the animal will be stressful, and that will hinder the composition of milk because of the stress that the animal actually goes through, and it will interfere also with the animal welfare. Economic importance of mastitis. Mastitis is
Regina, I'm afraid you're muted. Kindly unmute.
Sorry for that. Economic impact of mastitis. One is it is of particular concern for farmers in developing countries like Kenya, and costs due to mastitis include a reduced milk production and condemnation of milk due to antibiotic residues. We have veterinary costs during treatment, culling of chronically infected cows, and also occasion deaths. In addition, mastitis has a serious zoonotic potential associated with shedding of bacteria and their toxins in the milk. Mastitis is a wide spectrum of pathogens. It's caused by a wide spectrum of pathogens and epidemiologically categorized into contagious and environmental mastitis. Contagious pathogens are those which other of infected cows serve as a major reservoir, and they spread from cow to cow primarily during milking and tend to result in chronic subclinical infection with flare-ups of clinical episodes. Contagious pathogens include the Staphylococcus aureus, Acalacti, Mycoplasma species, and Corynebacterium bovis. On the other hand, environmental mastitis can be defined broadly on those intramammary infection caused by pathogens whose primary reservoir is the environment in the cow's life. These include E. coli, Klebsiella, and Discalacti and Uberis. And the majority of the infections caused by these pathogens are clinical and short duration. Economic impact of mastitis as a continuation. Mastitis is considerably interesting because of its incidence, and the extensive costs associated with this disease is actually very important in our today, because I'm having quite information from one of our regional veterinary lab, and between January 2021 to December 2021, the incidence of clinical mastitis confirmed from samples of milk taken from testing in the regional investigation veterinary laboratory and from the herds reared in North Rift was actually 98%. As you compare to the every sample that is being brought actually has got higher percentage in terms of tests of mastitis. And I was also checking other prevalence in other regions. I was seeing another report from Embu, and you find that the prevalence of mastitis is 64%. So you can equate that with economical impact, which is very negative, as towards our the daily production. And that kind of loss is very important, and also it requires a lot of attention for us to see on the preventive measures rather than curative measures. The mastitis reported cases also continued up to 90% of the total other bacterial disease. This is a comparison. I was taking through the reports, and you find that the reports comparing other bacterial reports, you find 90% is confirmed to be mastitis cases. And this incidence of mastitis can be, however, be expected to be even more, because in most of our farms, they cannot actually report this clinical mastitis. And you find that if the animal cannot present the symptoms, and it might be mastitic, then farmers can continue even supply the milk, and we can imagine the kind of toxins that we on daily basis we are taking, and we can imagine the amount of milk being discarded from our cooperatives and also in our processors end. Mastitis control is paramount importance. Mastitis control is of paramount importance, and the incidence of mastitis can be reduced by implementation of preventive measures. However, as they are associated with extra cost for the farmer in terms of investment and also labor, an intervention will only be made if the resulting increase in revenue can be expected to offset the incurred costs. Information about the economic loss associated with mastitis is crucial, and when evaluating the viability of different preventive measures, the economic loss incurred by mastitis is also an essential part of other management decisions, such as treatment of infected udder quarter, culling cows with mastitis, and also discarding milk with high somatic cell score. The management decision targeted to attract higher milk prices and improve breeding practices. We have one of the ways we can also control mastitis is actually breeding. And this is very interesting because I know most farmers are concentrating towards treating and also maybe hygienic and controlling without actually understanding that breeding can be one of the ways that it can control mastitis. And when we are checking on the production index of an animal, we check. We need to understand that the production index of animal has three categories. That is the production, the health, and also and that is very important because actually the linear traits that is in an animal contributes also to our daily our breeding, and also that the udder, the presentation of the udder itself. What is the size of the udder? What is the requirement of the udder? What is the attachment of the udder? How a pendulous udder can affect or can make the cow susceptible to mastitis. So breeding also in sound decisions in breeding is very important. Udder health is unfavorable genetic correlated with yield milk. And when we talk of this, we find just the way I said, we are running for high production. We are running for production. And that is a traditional kind of thinking, because actually the correlation between production and mastitis or udder health and milk yield is unfavorable. It cannot go directly to each other, because we also need, the more the milk yield, the more the susceptibility of the animal to get mastitis. And this is very important in our daily breeding decisions. So selecting only for increased production, which is traditionally has been a focus of dairy cattle breeding in many countries, and I believe here Kenya also we are emphasizing on the on high yielding, will therefore result in deterioration of the udder health. This can be counteracted by applying breeding goal, which includes not only production traits but also functional traits such as mastitis resistance. Breeding as a way of reducing frequency of mastitis, we see Kagrik being one of the producer of superior animal genetic material, can actually be able, through the genetic profiling of the DNA test that has been carried out, will be able to give you a sire of a cow that actually can change the next generation. I just want to put this in a way and give an example. You are having a bull from a Kagrik, and you're having your animal whom you want to improve. And I know most of our farms, we want to have our daily production of a cow that produces over 30 liters of milk. Supposing that cow is producing 40 liters or 60 liters, but 1/4 or you have a farmer has a challenge with mastitis, then it means that for you to improve and you make sure that you retain the next generation, you retain the lineage of that particular animal or cow that you have. Then selecting a bull for that particular cow will also have to guide you on how you can check on the somatic sales score. My screen is refusing to attach the other material. The genetic progress in a trait is partly determined by the relative weight assigned to it in a total merit index of the bull. And in order to assign proper economic weight to mastitis resistant, actually accuracy in terms of estimate of the economic loss caused by mastitis is necessary. Reading let's talk about severity and duration of mastitis. Mastitis can be either clinical or subclinical, we have said that. And clinical cases rise with the visible symptoms such as mild clinical mastitis. We have flex or clots. And for a farmer to notice that if you have a strip cup, then when you make the first expression of the milk from the mammary, from the teat, you find there are clots on the milk or the flex. Where the severe cases are associated with it, that is a severe clinical mastitis, we have swelling, discoloration of the udder, as well as abnormal secretion. In severe clinical mastitis, it can also exhibit systemic reactions such as fever and loss of appetite. Mastitis can exist in absence of visible signs of infection. And that's why I was telling our viewers and our listeners that it is very important to be keen in terms of mastitis, because sometimes it might not express or show any signs. And this is referred to as a clinical mastitis. Subclinical mastitis is a prevalent form of mastitis. And can be diagnosed by the presence of pathogens in bacteriologic cultures. I think it will have a chance to have our BIL Dr. representative will be able to give us what are the cultures that have been done there and confirmed pathogens or bacteria organisms that are there majorly. And the current standard method of detecting subclinical mastitis is measured in somatic sales score. I think somebody from Dairy Board will also tell us what is the threshold of somatic sales score. The duration of infection further classifies mastitis, acute or chronic mastitis, where sudden onset defines acute mastitis. Chronic mastitis is characterized by inflammatory process that lasts for months and result in progressive development of fibrous tissues. Milk always contains certain amount of somatic cells, and it consists of the various types of cells. This relative proportion depends on the health status of the herder. You find when you are going through the bull catalog, actually the standard somatic cell score is 3.5. So the more the somatic cell score in that bull or in that animal or in the milk, the more susceptible is the animal. And in elder lactating mammary gland, the major proportion of somatic cells is constituted by leukocyte, that is the white blood cells. And these are primarily, they are also primary macrophages and lymphocytes, but in small fraction, which consists of neutrophils and epithelial cells. The increase in somatic cells count constitute an important part of the cow immune system, and it is therefore widely used as indicator of mastitis. Milk always contains certain of amount, and I've said that. And in healthy lactating mammary gland, the major proportion of somatic cell score is constituted of, I think we've said this, we discussed that one. Let's check on the factors affecting susceptibility of cows to mastitis. What makes a cow prone to mastitis? There are several features of individual cows, and it can indicate an increased risk of developing mastitis. One is multiparous cows, that is cows that can have more than births in one birth. And these are generally at high risk of developing clinical mastitis, except in very early stages of lactation, where the relationship is the opposite. The risk in this type of cows developing clinical mastitis increases also with parity, the number of calves, that is. And there's also consistency in literature as regards to higher somatic cells count in dollar cows. I think that is a room for more research on that. And the risk also of developing clinical mastitis is higher or highest in early lactating cows. Those are the factors that contribute to a cow being prone to mastitis. Mastitic cows tend to be higher, to have high milk yield than the non-mastitic cows before they develop. And cows of certain breeds are more prone to mastitis. And I think discussion of the breeds, the type of breeds, actually could, you find the other research from other regions could be also depends on the environment, because you find other regions reports ashes, and I don't know the reason. This could be also the presence of fats, and also like the most of the reports that actually was brought in the region of North Rift, I saw the samples that were taken actually mostly were from the Frisian breed, and I could think that kind of information could be a bit biased, because we are reporting a lot of, I think the most elite farmers are the ones who are reporting a lot of information, while the dairy, small scale dairy farmers actually have limited themselves in reporting this kind of important information. And this actually could interfere with the information that we are getting in our laboratory. And maybe more measures are required so that we ensure that we are getting the real information, and we can also be able to solve the problems in all our dairy breeds. Because actually when you check on the fats, and when there's that interference of the mammary gland being along the blood and also the soul inside the mammary gland, then it interferes with the contents of the milk or the composition of milk. And the incidence of mastitis is actually influenced by managerial and environment factors. And those are such as housing of the cow, milking equipment, feeding, hygiene, and quality of water and milk. And also cleanliness or hygiene of the person with the herds or people who are handling. I would like us maybe still go through the mastitis decrease the synthetic capacity of mammary gland, which leads to decreased concentration of fat and casein in mammary gland. Indeed, in reviews, according to this research, we have the literature were found to cause somewhat low fat content in milk. And I think the presence of mastitis actually interferes with the milk component. The lactation level also estimate of absolute fat yield loss due to clinical mastitis varied between 3 to 22 kilos is about 1.5 to 7.5%. And the result increased protein content in milk produced by mastitis is actually due to higher content of inflammatory and also coagulating proteins and whey proteins in the mammary gland, and also decreased proportion of casein. Maybe I'll give you, this is part of the economic impact or the negative impact of mastitis milk. One is being discarded milk. Milk produced when cow shows signs of mastitis or while treated with antibiotics is actually discarded. And I'm afraid most of farmers might not be discarding milk or following the withdrawal periods of the drug residue, because actually following the procedures that a farmer is being given, or veterinary practitioners who are supposed to advise the farmers on how to follow, to strictly follow. Because if milk is being taken to the processor and it is being tested, actually the cost or the loss actually is more advanced, because actually the farmer will be losing and also the processor will be losing, because the processes of also transport carrying out from where it is to the processor is another cost. And this withdrawal periods includes the days when a cow actually receives the drug and waiting time, and usually consisting of some additional days when the risk of antibiotic residues in the milk. This actually depends on the product, the components of the residues of the antibiotic in the product, and different product has different or different antibiotic has got different withdrawal period. The length of the withdrawal period depends on the production system, as I have said, and the cost of discarded milk is comparably of milk loss, but with one important difference, that is discarded milk is produced by the cow and it is therefore associated with feed cost. Because the more you feed the cow, you're actually expecting that cow to produce. And if the milk is being discarded, you incur the loss of feeding the cow and also the loss of the milk itself. And the cost per unit of discarded milk is very high than corresponding cost of milk not produced. Discarded milk. Some ads feed discarded milk to cows, and I think this is very important for our farmers and also our viewers to take in how we normally dispose our milk with antibiotic and also with a given period of withdrawal. And the milk should not actually be given to cows, because also it will interfere with the anatomy. And also, mind you, this cow, the milk component is still mastitic, and feeding that cow with the antibiotic and also mastitis components or pathogens will actually expose that animal to calf to further problems with health. Another economical impact of mastitis is culling. And what happens when you cull an animal which add a potential kind of, or as a potential milk yield? Because actually that's another cause. And you've seen so many research, the clinical mastitis increases the risk of culling and also increases the mortality. The extent to which clinical mastitis affect the risk of culling depends on lactation stage and the clinical onset. But that does not mean the treatment cannot work, because we are seeing how labs can do also have the sensitivity test, which can be able to manage the problem. Unless now it depends on the stage or the situation, whether it is chronic, which will call for culling. It is also influenced by reproductive status, and open cows are at greater risk of being culled due to clinical mastitis if they are diagnosed with early lactation, whereas pregnant cows are subjected to relatively similar risk of being culled because of clinical mastitis, irrespective of when it is lactating and when and the time they are being diagnosed. Let's check on the economical assessment of mastitis. That's a continuation. Expenditures or extra inputs needs to limit losses, either by reducing the impact of unplanned events, such as treatment of mastitis cow, or by preventing such events from occurring. In the case of investment into preventive measures, it has been argued that it is the relationship between losses and expenditures that is of importance if estimated of the cost of disease are to be used in the input decision making. Note the economic loss associated with disease by production actually is key. And let's check on the effective mastitis control programs. I know this one might not be in my screen, but I'll just take through because this is our daily, and also maybe our dairy board representative will also give us an overview of that. Dipping this immediately after milking with product known to be safe and very effective, that is acetic acid or solution of vinegar. This is one of the way of controlling mastitis. You also have a good hand hygiene between milking and milking. Before milking also, you clean the udders and dry them. Prompt treatment of all clinical mastitis cases and culling with chronic mastitis infection. Also keeping accurate records of clinical mastitis and somatic cells count in individual cows to assist in making management decision is very key. And this actually can help us in terms of passing out or transporting the pathogen from animal to the other. And it is very important to be very keen when handling or when we are handling mastitic cow. And we encourage when we milk cows, we don't mix the milk, so that actually if you identify, the earlier you identify, the earlier you prevent or you control or you avoid contaminating the goat milk or even the animals. So handling individual udder with the right, with that towel for every individual quarter is very important. And also every animal or every cow should have an individual udder, and also make sure that you control and practice hygiene practices, so that we will be able to control the disease. Having this discussion, I would like to say thank you so much, because I want the other time so that we can discuss and brainstorm on this problem of mastitis. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Regina, for the elaborate presentation. At this point in time, I would like to just give a few takeaways. One of the issues that has stood out is that out of the total bacterial diseases that were reported in the North Rift, 90% of those cases constituted mastitis. We've also taken note that there is the issue of underreporting of clinical mastitis. So we should encourage our farmers and the practitioners. At this point, it is upon us now to ensure there is a reporting so that there is accuracy in the data we are receiving out there. However, we have also heard that we can reduce mastitis through a number of ways of preventing it. At this point in time, I would want to welcome Dr. Shah. He has a wide experience in clinical work, veterinary clinical work, to just share with us, in summary, his experience in handling of mastitis. After that, we'd want to hear from Dr. Kibet, if he's in the house, on the issues of regulation and what they look out for in terms of the standards expected out there, right from the farm level all the way to, and what they are doing in terms of regulating the dairy industry. Thank you. Dr. Shah, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Roslyn. I hope you guys can hear me. Now, yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. And once again, good morning to the rest of the guys who have joined recently. Yes, mastitis, as Regina has put it, it's a very, very important disease. And sometimes I do feel that maybe we have neglected the management of mastitis, starting from the farm level right up to the treatment level. I think Regina has kind of put very nicely the kind of measures we should undertake to at least prevent mastitis initially, both at the management level as well as the breeding level. And I know that there are certain traits which you can select for to decrease the incidence of mastitis on your farm in general. Now, as far as the preventive measures are concerned, there is no magic bullet. You know, there are certain products on the market which says, oh, use this, vaccinate your cow, and it will decrease the incidence of mastitis. I do believe that such a magic bullet does not exist. The only magic bullet is basically cleanliness and complete milking of the udder. I think those, if we can practice that, we should be able to decrease the incidence on the farm level. Like Regina and Dr. Roslin indicated, mastitis is a lot of the time not reported because the farmer does not know that the cow has got mastitis. There might be an incidence of a cow just decreasing the amount of milk being produced, And does take a little bit of time before they realize and samples are taken for culture sensitivity. I think basically what I would be interested in would be that if there are any kind of questions which we can answer, that would be very nice. I have tried to answer one question which has been put there by somebody I believe was called Mr. Wanjala, and Mr. Wanjala asked whether bulk milk can be tested using CMT. Now, CMT is a very subjective test. There are people, myself included, who are colorblind. And CMT basically depends on detecting the color and the consistency of the, when you mix the milk and the reagent. I think bulk milk should be tested using culture, not sensitivity, just culture, and it should give us the total bacterial count. If I leave it here, I would still be available here if there are any questions. Thank you, Rosalind.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. We are humbly requesting that your questions keep coming through on the feature, the chat and the Q&A session feature. We are also glad to have Dr. Kibet on board from the Kenya Dairy Board. Kindly shed more light on your work, and at the same, introduce yourself, shed more light on the issues to do with milk hygiene and the regulations put in place. There's also a question from Dr. Wanjala, whether there is research that is currently ongoing on mastitis or the costs that relate to that. I'm sure Kenya Dairy Board does a lot of regular surveys. Probably you can give us more information. Karibu, Dr. Kibet.
Okay, thank you. My name is George Kibet. I work with the Kenya Dairy Board, stationed here in Eldoret. We do cover Uasin Gishu and Elgeyo Marakwet. So basically in our day-to-day work, what we do is we've split it into 3 sections. The first one is on compliance, which focuses on adherence by stakeholders to the set standards and regulation. The second area was on capacity building, mainly on sensitization and training of milk handlers. The other section is on promotion of daily activities, which the current active program is the school milk program, but we also work with other stakeholders to promote products like cheese, butter, that the consumptions are low within the country. So basically that's what we do. We also have a dairy laboratory that was commissioned or opened this year. And what it does is tests for majority of the dairy products. And also, they also test feeds. That's on a brief what we do. So in terms of mastitis and milk quality, so based on the standards, the East Africa standards, which was harmonized for the region, the limit for somatic cell count is 300,000 for the upper limit for all. Just as I entered in, I had a problem with the audio, but as I entered in, I think someone had talked about it being tested as a by culture for the bulk milk. So the maximum allowed limit is 300,000 for the somatic cell count. For the total plate count, we're doing it at 2 million. Then for coliform, 50,000. So those are the limits. In terms of research, we do quarterly survey, which we analyze milk from the farm. We also pick products from transporter.
I'm afraid, Dr. we are losing you.
Milk and processors, finished product. Sorry, someone called in. So So for that, we do a quarterly survey, and we have data for several years. But in terms of publication, we've not done any publication.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yes.
I don't know whether we have somebody from the Regional Veterinary Investigatory Laboratory with us here who can share with us more on the diagnostics and what they've been seeing in the service. In the meantime, if they are not here yet, and the farmer as well who would have shared their own experience with mastitis on the farm, I would request that we take questions from the plenary as we move along. So I would request that we raise our hand for the sake of order, and we'll be able to let you present your question to the panelists. Thank you.
We have Francis Omoro. Francis, please proceed with your question.
Francis Omoro, kindly unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Francis, please proceed.
Hello.
Please proceed.
I wanted to ask whether we can get the nearest laboratory for mastitis test.
Where are you, Francis? Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Where are you? Please.
I'm in Kuria.
Kuria.
I'm in Migori, Kuria.
Migori.
Yes.
Okay, because Dr. was to join us, I'll just direct that question to Dr. Kandie, who was not able to join us. He's telling me he's having a technical problem. Shortly, let me just direct your question, and then I'll get back to you shortly.
Thank you.
Kindly, let's continue having the questions coming through, and we'll be able to answer all of them at once. Thank you. I'm seeing a question from one of the participants on the chat. It's about, 1 minute, should be there. We have a question from Jane Naiponoi Ketere. She's asking what causes or makes cows produce bloody milk after calving down. Dr. Shah, would you want to give it a shot?
Yes, Rosalind. Let me try and answer this question here. Yes, that's a very nice question here. And I'm sure very many farmers have actually experienced such a scenario. Basically, bloody milk does not really indicate if there's mastitis or not. In a lot of the cases, what happens is that immediately after calving, can we ask Francis Omoro to please mute? I can hear him loud and clear here. Okay, so going back to the answer, what really happens is the tissues inside the mammary glands are quite friable at that time, and what our milking technique also, basically we don't squeeze the teat, we tend to pull the teat, and in the process we tend to injure the valves which are there. So in a lot of the cases we would actually see that the initial milk would be white in color, But as the milking process carries on, we see that the later milk becomes bloody and sometimes even with clots. Basically, what has happened here is that we have injured that teat, and now the tissue is raw and bleeding, and that is what causes bloody milk. Other than other signs, if we don't see any other signs except bloody milk, chances are that it is tissue which has been injured and not really a case of mastitis. I hope I answered that question.
Yes, you have. Thank you, Dr. Shah, for that. Do we have any other questions, participants? We have a team of experts here to answer all your questions, so do not hesitate to send in your questions.
Okay.
Hamisi Wainaina had raised his hand. Hamisi, please proceed.
Hamisi Wainaina, kindly ask your question. Looks like Hamisi is having challenges. I'm seeing a question from Kurgat. He's asking about, tell us more about fungal and viral mastitis. Dr. Kibet, from your lab, have you encountered any of these from the labs, from your lab? Or during the surveys that you've undertaken? Dr. Kibet, you with us? I'm also seeing another question on the chat feature. Is there a vaccine for mastitis? I remember some time back in 2007, 2008, Nairobi Veterinary Center had one, Mastivac. Dr. Shah, would you have an idea about the Mastivac? Mastitis vaccine? Yes.
Let me try and answer the two questions while Dr. Kibet is getting ready. Personally, I have never encountered a case of viral mastitis, and I don't know if such a thing really exists. But fungal mastitis has started becoming quite common due to the misuse of antibiotics, in the sense that you do not complete the dosage, the complete dosage of the recommended antibiotic. A lot of the times we do not really know what bacteria is causing the mastitis, and we end up starting with what we call the policeman, which is the penicillin, streptomycin range, and then thereafter we go to the APE, which is now the higher range, and finally the GSU, which we now talk about the gentamicins and the kanamycin range. Now, indiscriminate use usually would actually allow for the fungi or the fungi or the yeast to take advantage of the low incidence of bacteria which may still be there. Oh, you can't hear me. I see Miha so said. Can you hear me now? Somebody, Rosalind, can you hear me?
I'm afraid you
yes.
need to raise your voice a little bit.
Okay, let me do this. Let me just put on a microphone, and then I think you should be able to hear me better. Just give me a minute.
Okay, fine.
Hello? Hello?
Perhaps you could try to raise the volume of your microphone, please.
Okay, now can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Shah, we can hear
Yeah.
you. Please proceed.
Yeah,
Okay,
carry
very
on.
good. Okay, so like I was saying, I hope you can now hear me clear. Okay, so I have not really had any experience with viral mastitis, but with fungal mastitis, yes, the incidence is increasing. And like I said, that it's purely because of misuse of antibiotics. If we are able to recommend that the dosage of the treatment is actually, dosage of the antibiotic treatment is actually completed, and we use the right kind of antibiotic after culture and sensitivity tests have been done, then it would be the best way to go. The other question, can you remind me what the other question was? Yes, what was it? About the mastitis vaccine. Yes, Mastivac came and it went. It was a vaccine, but like I said, that it was just one group of the tools which are necessary to control mastitis on the farm. I do believe there's another vaccine which is being presented currently. I forget the name, the trade name which was there, but it is specifically against the streptococcus and the staphylococcal mastitis. I'm afraid I do not have much experience with this current vaccine being presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Dr. Kibet, any comment you'd want to make on the same? Okay, fine. We had Hamisi Wainaina. I don't know whether he was able to ask his question even on chat feature. If you're not able to ask live, kindly just type it in on the Q&A feature or the chat feature, then we can go ahead and respond. Any issues that may not be tackled during this webinar, will be kind enough to ensure that we respond to all your queries and send the responses back to you. Yeah, we appreciate that there's minimal time. We are engaging for about 2 hours, but we believe that out of this, we can make a follow-up and even engage further, even beyond this platform. I'm seeing we have Maxwell Lumumba. Maxwell Lumumba is from Medilink. At this point in time, I would request that you introduce yourself, tell us what your organization does, and how best you can help our farmers and the veterinary professionals need to also know what it is what solutions you'd have in management and prevention of mastitis. Karibu, Bwana Maxwell.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yes, my name is Maxwell Lumumba. Currently, I'm working with Medilink Labs and Surgicals. And basically, the purpose of the company, actually we deal with veterinary equipment. So some of the veterinary equipment that we have relevant to the topic, which is the importance of mastitis, the economic importance of mastitis. So we as Medilink, we have some of the equipment that we can use in testing mastitis that can help veterinarians and also at the farm levels. So to start with, we have the mastitis detector, but this one is an electronic device that basically person who can use is a veterinarian. Then we have the strip caps. The strip caps, a farmer can use the strip cap. Then we have the Cmt Kit that we really recommend farmers to be having in farm levels. So basically the Cmt Kit to test mastitis.
I'm afraid, Maxwell, you've muted your microphone. Please unmute.
Oh, sorry, it is network. So basically the Cmt Kit, we usually recommend the farmers to be using the Cmt Kit because it is easy to use. Basically, it comprises we have the CMT paddle, then we have the reagent,
Maxwell, again, we've lost you. Kindly unmute. We seem to have lost Maxwell, but we hope he'll be joining us shortly. Madam Chebet, kindly check for us on Facebook whether we have any questions from that end, and we can continue responding as we wait for Maxwell to come back. We are also looking forward to have the officer in charge of the Regional Veterinary Investigatory Lab in Eldoret. He can share with us a bit on what is going on out there in matters related to mastitis. Chebet, any questions we have?
None so far.
Dr.
Okay.
Regina's hand is raised. I don't know if she has something to say.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. Actually, like also, I think Dr. is where I don't know if we can make. I'm seeing a text from him. Yeah, but I would like to answer the question on behalf of him. The question for Francis, he was asking where can he get mastitis test in Migori? In mastitis, Francis, I'm told there's a veterinary lab in Kericho, so that is where you can go and take up your samples. And maybe in addition to what Dr. actually had mentioned, on the first question, the lady, the blood samples, actually what happens to control early mastitis, especially in dry cows, it is very important to understand that during the early period of drying the cow, there's a tremendous stress which is excited on the udder because of the gland. So that gland must break down and observe retained milk as well as millions of dead milk secretion in the cells. So this during this time, the 2 or 3 weeks prior to calving, that is approximately 40 to 50% of the new udder infection occur. And that is where we find the transition of the infection all the way to the bloody milk. And for this, the solution for this is actually ensuring that you give the cow dry therapy, which is suitable to reduce the number of infections during the period of up to, actually it can reduce up to 30%. That is according to research. I've seen so many research, and the drying therapy actually can assist in controlling the mastitis. Another issue is feeding of the animal, especially the heavy milkers. I know our farmers, we have got the tendency of giving concentrates, and we know the concentrates actually normally boost the production of milk. So when you are trying the cow, actually you deny the concentrates and you can feed the animal the dry. Because there is also effect when you are trying the cow and you're feeding the concentrate, you're increasing, and you know there's no that draining of the milk from the teat canal. So the remaining will just accumulate and coagulate, and also give a condition or a favorable condition for the pathogens to build up in the mammary system. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. I'm also seeing additional questions on the chat feature. I would want any member of the panelists would be able to answer to go ahead and do so. Did some work on use of Tixilant from Bimeda? The product significantly showed, he's saying he did some work on use of Tixilant from Bimeda, and the product significantly showed to be preventive against mastitis post-calving. is the product in the market now? I don't know. Dr. Shah, have you interacted with this sealant, tick sealant from Bimeda?
Yes, we have used tick sealant in the past, and yes, it is actually quite protective. It was quite protective immediately after calving. But I do believe that currently there is no tick sealant on the market, unless there is anybody else on the panel here who can say otherwise. This is not available. And then there's this other question by Dr. Nixon Rono, who is asking if there's any dry cow therapy on the market. Yes, if you can contact Elgin Kenya Limited, Dr. Ngeno, I'm actually putting the telephone number shortly on the chat here. You can contact. I do believe they do have dry cow right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shah, for that. I'm seeing a question from Miheso Mulembani. Are there any rapid diagnostic tests for mastitis in the market?
Probably I'll answer on the rapid tests. They are somatic cell count strips, and also there's a somatic cell count digital reader. So those are tests. Maybe you can use it for bulk milk as a rapid test. We normally use it here in dairy mode. Besides the other farm level tests.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kibet, for that. I am also seeing we are having 1 minute. I think we've answered most of the questions that we have on board, including the dry cow. I've also been able to see on social media, Carol, through the Climate Smart program. There's also a test that they are working to register. It's called a Penside Mastitis Diagnostic Kit. So there's work going on. So this is something that we can also look forward to as we carry on. But we are happy that there's already there are already kits in the market. For the CPD points, if you've not given in your KVB number, kindly do so. We are almost concluding our webinar. I don't know, Regina, is the farmer on board to just comment?
Access him, but actually maybe I can give an experience as to why the farmer actually was interested. I don't know what happened. He's not on here. The farmer actually has been struggling for the last 1 year due to mastitis, and considering the production that he had actually to stop at any period, and he was able to manage, and he was telling me the intervention by the Medilink, actually by providing the California milk test kit, was a solution. Maybe Maxwell, I don't know if we're still on here, we can also share with that, because actually he has been telling me he has been struggling for the last 2 years. And also the advice on the breeding session also has been also a lot of achievement. That is, he has noted that, because already he's having a NAFA from our bulls by selecting the bull with a low somatic cell score. That was, I think, Bomo on our area, and Bomo actually with a somatic cell score of around 2.8. And actually he's telling me he has been able, for the first day, he has never experienced the challenge that he had. But actually he could be, he was able to retain the genetics of the next generation from the lineage of the previous cow, which has that challenge of mastitis. I don't know if Maxwell could be on his, so that he can also tell us.
Okay, apologies, because where I was, there was a problem of network. Okay, I was discussing something about the CMT kit, which is a simple an indicator of somatic cell count of milk. Basically, it operates by disrupting the cell membrane of any cell present in the milk sample, allowing for DNA in the cells to react with the test reagent. So the farmer in Kapenguria, we have a farmer in Kapenguria who had challenges in mastitis for more than a year. The farmer contacted me, and actually I advised him to take the Cmt kit from Medilink, which he bought, that we use to detect the early stages of mastitis, so that we can treat the mastitis at early age, so that it cannot go to a severe, in a state that it can cause a lot of harm. So basically what we did, we took the Cmt kit, then we milked to the paddle of we milked to the paddle from each quarter. Then we milked from the paddle for the milk from the paddle from each quarter.
I'm afraid, Maxwell, we've lost you again. Maxwell, kindly unmute.
Yes, then we add equal volume of test reagent, then agitate it. The reaction scored will be ranged between 0 to 3, which the score of 2 to 3 being the considered or being positive result.
Maxwell, we seem to have challenges getting to hear from you. Perhaps you can summarize your response on the chat feature, so that the participants can be able to get your response in the meantime as we work towards sorting your connectivity. Thank you. I'm seeing a question from Philip Lagat, and Philip Lagat is asking, us, commenting, indicating that there is need to decentralize the vet labs, the veterinary laboratories, and have them closer, including rapid testing centers near farmers. I can imagine that the economic cost of taking one milk sample to vet labs, Kericho from Migori, must be very high. Is it possible to partner with courier providers like G4S? Your question is taken note, Philip Lagat. Will be kind enough to ensure that this information and your comment is shared with the VILs. Yeah, but again, the issues of sampling, Dr. Kibet can also appreciate and shed more light how they do it on their end, because I believe the Kenya Dairy Board also runs those laboratories. Maybe whatever Kenya Dairy Board is doing could augment what the VILs are also doing. Dr. Kibet, do you have any outlets or regional labs that you work with, even outside Uasin Gishu and Elgeyo Marakwet? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have one laboratory in Kabete, but we also have a mobile lab. But we've also partnered with one of the courier services that does collect and take for samples for us to the lab. So what happens is on a monthly basis, there is a budget for sample collection. Then that is now we do it, then give it to the courier service who deliver to the laboratory within the same day. The other bit is the mobile lab do the quarterly surveillance. Then the other ones is maybe when a farmer has a problem, then he can report to us, then we can do the test. We also have, I think there's this Kenya Butterfat Control. They also have some equipment. They can run simple tests for farmers, and they do it also for free. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kibet, for that. I'm sure we have several stones in our bags to be able to tackle this issue of mastitis.
Yes.
I would kindly request Dr. Kibet if you could share your contact, and probably even after this, the participants and the farmers can engage you even further on how best to get those services, or the links or the leads on the scene. Thank you.
Okay.
Henry Kurgat is asking, where is Medlink situated in Eldoret? Maxwell, are you able to respond to that, or you could do it on the chat feature?
Rosalind, while Lumumba is getting online, Maxwell is getting online.
Yes.
Maybe what you can say that Maxwell is basically a salesman for Medilink. If Mr. Kurgat would need any of the products, he can actually contact us, because we are agents for Medilink. And if we do not have, we can order it direct for him. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daktari, for that. So Kurgat, feel free to engage Dr. Shah even after this.
And
Dr. Shah is also one of our, sorry?
Sorry, yeah, I have put my number on the chat there, so they can feel free to call.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Shah. I was just saying, Dr. Shah is one of the KAGRIC appointed agents. He is distributing KAGRIC semen, liquid nitrogen, and any other equipment. And being one of the leading agents, and more so in Uasin Gishu County, he is an agent of several other entities. So kindly get in touch with him, and you'll be able to have more of your questions around the clinical practice addressed even after this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalind, for all that free publicity you've given. Asante sana.
Daktari, I think I can chip in. I'm seeing Hamisi Wenaina has finally posted this question on the Q&A. And Hamisi Wenaina is asking, what would be the problem of a dairy goat where the milk changes taste, but all other characteristics look okay? Feed not changed. I don't know, Dr. Kibet, whether we could help us address that one.
I'll talk of flavor, what changes the taste and the flavor in milk. Now, basically, milk picks either from the taste from either the environment or what the animal eats. So one could be, if as she has said that she hasn't changed the feed, that will rule out that. Then basically is also the environment where the milk and some bacteria in milk, maybe bacteria that join in after milk, especially bacteria that act on protein. They tend to change the flavor of milk. So for now, I couldn't, I cannot for now say this could be one reason. Even farmers who feed silage or any feed that has changes in that has a high order, then it's recommended that you do it 2 hours before milking. Even things like silage, so that taste cannot be contaminate or change the flavor of the milk. So that's my view. The other panelists can also support me.
Thank you, Dr. Kibet. Something else in milk hygiene that also stands out is the fact that the cleanliness of the equipment could also affect the quality of milk. So sometimes milk really takes up all sorts of smells and all other substances that may be in the environment. So even the equipment should be properly cleaned and disinfected to ensure that they are very clean and that there are no residues of even the cleaning detergent that may also impact the changing smell or taste of the milk. I don't know if we don't have any other. In the event that we do not have any other questions, or probably there are any other comments from the panelists, would wish to hand over the meeting to Mary Nzita to give the closing remarks. Then now we can wind up the session. But KVB, if you're still around, kindly say a word or two. Thank you.
I can see Dr. Mary Agutu is around. Dr. you can say a word.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dadan Monyao. I'm actually standing in for Dr. Mary Agutu. And I was the one who was supervising this event. Okay, the CPD is actually worth 2 points. So for all the participants who attended for the last 2 hours, they will get the full points. Now, I don't know if anyone has any questions regarding KVB. If they have any questions, they can go ahead and ask. Thank you.
Well, in the absence of any other additional questions from our participants, I would like to summarize. With some takeaway points for ourselves. It's been 2 hours that our. Kindly let's have everyone muted. Some of the takeaways that I would want each one of us to take from this webinar is that mastitis affects the udder. It could affect the milk production negatively, and at the end of the day, impact on the economy of the dairy enterprise. Again, it is one of the most costly diseases of dairy animals and could lead to losses of milk, the reduction in milk yield, premature culling, and replacements. For the animal health providers, mastitis ought to be reported as it happens to ensure that accurate data and information is captured in the field. We also had that most infections are relatively mild, clinical mastitis and subclinical. So we should be able to help our farmers in picking out, diagnosing this, and liaise with our partners in the investigatory labs and the Kenya Dairy Board to be able to help our farmers get remedial action in good time. And more so, you've seen even Dr. Shah and other vets. We can still help you as KAGRIC. Do not shy away. Send in your questions. We'll be able to answer even after this. Those are the few takeaways. And I would like to thank each one of the panelists, Dr. Shah, Dr. Benjamin Kandia, in as much as he was not able to join us, but he was able to respond in the back end, Dr. Kibet, the Kenya Dairy Board for supervising the CPD, Mr. Maxwell Lumumba from Medlink, KLBA, and all the participants, now the farmers and the veterinary professionals that have made time to join us. We say thank you, but we ask you to join us next week. We are having a very interesting topic on choosing and managing mixed breeds. This will be by the Kenya Livestock Breeders Association. We'll be able to hear more on how do you manage such mixed breeds. The webinar will run from 10:30 to noon. So be sure to look out for our posters on social and also our social media messages and join in when that time comes. One announcement that I would want to make very soon, Kagrik will be launching the second AI center. Is a goat AI center in Kirinyaga. It will be focusing on production of dairy goat semen. So mine is to urge all the farmers and the AI technicians to take advantage and utilize the products that will come out of that center. Like you had in our video, we'll be able to give to provide embryo transfer and poultry multiplication as the next big thing once we have rolled out the Goats AI Center. So keep engaging with Kagrik and our partners, and we'll be able to assist you in the best way possible. At this point in time, I would request that Mary Nzinza takes over and we close up the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daktari, for that vote of thanks. Thank you everyone for joining in. And thank you, panelists. It has been a wonderful session. We can all ascertain that we have gained a lot of information. And I may not go back to what my colleagues have said, but I believe this is one of the wonderful webinars we've had. And now we are more equipped, we are more recharged. We have reminded ourselves a few aspects about mastitis, and it is a great pleasure to have you and to host you in these webinars every and other Tuesday. At this juncture, we would like to close and also remind you that Kagrik has 68 agents out there. You can check out in our website. For breeding issues, somatic cell count, direct from the genes, you can check out on our catalog, also in our website. You will be able to see we have done genomics for most of our bulls, and therefore you are able even to know before you select the semen for a certain AI or for your breeding program, which semen to select in case you're facing mastitis issues. And therefore, at this point, let me just say a big thank you, a big shout out thank you to everyone who joined in. Thank you so much, Regina. That was a wonderful presentation and well-researched presentation. We appreciate so much. So let's close with the words of grace, and then everyone may be free to live at their own pleasure. Now may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. Amen. Amen. We are free to live at our own pleasure.
Kindly, if you have any additional questions, kindly send your email, your questions to info@kagrik.go.ke. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And just a quick one, kindly don't forget to leave behind your name and your KVB number, please.
Thank you, Roslyn. Thank you, everybody else who actually attended. And of course, our main presenter. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Dr.